Ivan in British Columbia wants to know if he doesn't have online and he has Snake Eater already.
Yeah. Is it still worth getting?
Still worth getting?
That all depends. Basically, that all depends on how much you want to play this game again with a better camera. I do strongly believe that the new default camera perspective makes this a better game. It's just more enjoyable to play now. And the new extras that aren't the online, the new boss battle stuff, the new Snake versus Monkey missions, and the secret theater and stuff like that, these are substantial extras. So even if you don't play the online, it can still be worth it, especially for $30. But if you ignore the online, you're ignoring a huge aspect of what makes this such a cool package, and more than just kind of a rehash or a reissue of the original game. So if you're not interested in the online at all, it's hard to say. It comes down to a pretty personal decision as to how much you want to play through the original game again. But I do think, to reiterate, I do think it's worth replaying Metal Gear Solid 3 again just for this camera angle. I loved playing it through, an additional time.
Cool. Let's turn back to the online. A lot of people interested in the online. I mean, it's all new. Juan in Iowa wants to know, can you change camouflage outfits when playing as Snake in online mode? And then I guess my follow-up is, how does that work online with camouflage? Do you just become invisible? Or what?
You have some characters, including Snake in the sneaking mission mode, have access to the stealth camouflage, which is that Predator-style effect that makes you almost invisible, but you'll sometimes see like a crackle of electricity that can give you away, and as Snake, once you've picked up the little microfilm that you're trying to retrieve and get to an exit, characters can see that kind of floating over your head and spot you that way. But as far as like going into a start menu and curing, digging out bullet wounds and changing camouflage, that does not come into play in the online. However, the visually camouflage does take effect. You do have like the low foliage and things like that, and you could absolutely act like a sniper in this game and duck down into the grass and have your sniper rifle sticking out and be picking guys off and basically using the visual aspects of the game, the way that your character is naturally wearing camouflage to blend in with the environment.
Cool. John in New York wants to know, does the online mode play like the single-player game? Because you have inventory controls and all that stuff. Is all that there?
It's interesting because it does and it doesn't. So having finished the single player of Metal Gear Solid 3, you could then dive into the online and realize you're in a whole new world. It's got a whole new learning curve, and actually one of my slight knocks against this game is that the manual that comes with a package doesn't do a very good job of helping you get your bearings in the online. But the same core mechanics apply. The way the camera works, switching weapons and items, that's all the same, and you could even use your close quarters combat to like drop the guy and plug him in the head. But there's a whole different feel to the action since there's much more kind of lethality in the online play. You could die a lot faster if someone just plugs you in the head. So the online play is like, imagine if you were playing as one of the grunts that you were killing in droves in the single-player game. That's kind of what it feels like to be playing the online.
Great. All right. Nathan in Alberta asks, is there more camouflage in this version than there was in the original, and can you still download the camo that was available for the original?
There is the download camouflage option, and yes, there is more camouflage right on the disc. We actually cycled through that a little earlier. Yeah. It's all kind of silly, but you could see Snake with a big Japanese flag on his face and things like that. It has no real bearing on gameplay, but it's just kind of fun to look at, and it applies in the single-player cutscenes. So again, if you want to add like a ridiculous element to the game, you could be going around with a big Italian flag or like something like that on your face and having these really serious discussions where Snake is talking to Ocelot and what have you.
Nice. Has the script from the MSX version of Metal Gear 2 been rewritten or improved on? I mean, it's been translated, so it's kind of the first time.
I can't say I'm familiar with the original MSX version of the game, but it has been. This script has been translated, and it's coherent. It doesn't read like an old Nintendo game from the 80s where
where it's just all busted up. And
botched.
How are the response times on the MSX versions of the game? Pretty clean. The emulation feels fine.
They play just fine. Yeah, it plays like an old Nintendo game where basically it feels like a very clean port. These games don't necessarily They don't necessarily hold up great. I mean, as you can see here, they are lacking a lot as far as, you know, the presentation quality that we've come to expect from Metal Gear Solid.
And even like, I mean, the movement quality, just the quality of movement and animation just seems like it's a step below the NES. And the MSX, not a very powerful, powerful in its day, I guess.
Yeah, actually, they're definitely better than the NES version.
Okay.
There's a lot of really cool stuff, in particular in Metal Gear 2. Metal Gear 2 is the game where you start to get a feel for where the series was going. Like, as you could see here, you could crawl through gratings and you could, like, punch a wall and guys will hear you. And you sound an alarm, you know, if you make too much noise. So a lot of the elements that later became part and parcel with Metal Gear Solid are evident in these games. So it's just, above all, it's great to have them as part of the package to give you a sense of where the series came from and kind of let you understand that it's held true to certain principles, even as the presentation quality has just gotten better and better over the years.
Cool. John in Ohio is obviously taking the HD TV plunge, wants to know if the game has widescreen support and 480p support.
No, I don't believe so. A lot of the cutscenes are all letterboxed automatically with the subtitles enabled by default. I have a feeling that part of, well, this is just speculation, but with how good this game looks and how hard it's probably pushing the PlayStation 2, they're probably doing all they can to kind of limit the amount of stuff that happens on the screen just to make sure that there's a good frame rate and like a high level of detail in what's being displayed.
Matt from Texas has a question that I don't think we have the answer to, but I think it's probably worth saying anyway. Is there any chance that this will come to the Xbox like Substance did? I mean, this isn't the first time that they've released like an updated version of a Metal Gear game.
Right.
But the last time it was on the Xbox.
Indeed. Right. There's no version of Metal Gear Solid 3 on the Xbox yet, and Konami hasn't made any announcements to that effect. I don't know if they're locked into Sony's platforms, what with Metal Gear Solid 4 and all that. You know, a lot of what they've been saying around that game, they kind of make a joke about the cell processor. So maybe they're in cahoots with Sony platforms at this point, but you never know. I never would have guessed that certain games came to other platforms that did. So here's hoping. If you want it for the Xbox, then just kind of rattle as many cages as you can, post to message boards, and maybe the powers that be will take notice.
Though that said, I think I remember them saying that, you know, with the team so deeply entrenched in MGS4 development, that they didn't want to spend the time to put it out on the Xbox this time around, since it was already on the PS2. Real easy to just kind of add the camera and tweak that stuff and then do it, I guess. Right? Okay. Victor, New Jersey asks, is replaying the original Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2, is it easy to jump into, or is the game aged badly?
They have definitely aged. They're easy to pick up and play because all you could do at first is walk around and punch. And the basic controls also still apply as far as equipping weapons and using rations to recover health and things like that. But the games are a little bit... you'll realize from playing these games how much of a better job games today do as far as giving you instruction on what you're actually supposed to be doing, because you'll just kind of be walking around not sure what to do. You have to use your radio to get your orders on what to do next and stuff like that. These games are actually hard too. You could die easy. Metal Gear 2 in particular, it's got, you know, really tough bosses in it, stuff like that. So I think fans are gonna really, again, they're gonna like it, but as far as this being like a major gameplay attraction, you know, not necessarily.
Are they lengthy games? I mean,
yeah, I mean,